Hi, welcome to Every Single Journey, a family life original podcast for singles. My name is Becki. I'm a single girl in my 30s who is passionately pursuing this life God has given me. Join me as we navigate the season of singleness together. Are you bringing someone special? Do you have a boyfriend? When are you going to start dating again? Are just some of the questions we hear around the holidays. Joining us on episode 16 to discuss the difficult relationship status questions that come with holiday parties are Lisa.
Hi, everyone. I'm an elementary music teacher, and I'm the host of Family Life's Not Just Single.
And Becca.
Hi, I'm Becca, and I work for the events team here at Family Life, and I'm really excited to be here.
Lisa, what are a few relationship status questions you have been asked, and how do they make you feel?
Well, as the teacher of little ones, I frequently get the question, Miss Carr, are you married? And then we have the whole discussion about, well, my name is Miss Carr, which means that I'm not married. If I was married, I'd be Mrs. I've also had the follow-up question, well, do you have a boyfriend? And those are cute. And it's the curiosity of children. So those don't really bother me as much as, when adults will ask those questions. I was at my sister's bridal shower, and I had an extended family member come up and say, well, what about you? You're the oldest. Why aren't you married yet? And it was a little bit like a sucker punch to the stomach because, I'm fully aware that I am the oldest and that I am not married. Thank you for the reminder. And it just really makes you feel uncomfortable, at least me. It also kind of brings up those feelings of grief of my life hasn't turned out the way that I thought it would to that extent. And so uncomfortable. And I was reminded there's such personal questions, right? And we don't do that to married people. Like we don't go up to them and say, so are you happy in your marriage? That's just because that's none of my business, right? And so it's so interesting how culturally it's perfectly acceptable to ask those very personal questions to people that are single and yet not to ask them to people who are married.
And just the difference, too, between an innocent school child asking and an adult asking, and just you can feel the body language and the difference in how the delivery is even asked. Like from a kid, it's usually most of the time just out of curiosity. Yeah. And as they're learning and exploring and figuring things out. But then when it comes from an adult, it feels like there's always that judgment almost behind it, or that, okay, like explain yourself here. You're still single. You haven't gotten married yet. Like, what's going on? And sometimes I'm like, I wish you could answer that for me because I don't know either.
I'd love to know.
I mean, I do, but I don't. And so it's always interesting. I think for me, I most often get that type of question when I'm with extended family and they haven't seen me in a long time. I haven't seen them in a long time. And I almost think it's like the default question to start a conversation, because it's like, what else do you ask? What else do you talk about? Oh, we'll just start with relationship status because that seems to be the thing. And I'm like, can we pick something different? Like, can we maybe pick the job or a career or it's almost summertime, what some fun summer plans do you have or something like that? But it always seems to default to relationship status, which is kind of annoying. Yeah. Becca, what about you?
It comes up as the first question, like you said, and sometimes to go to the bridal shower or whatever family event, you kind of have to hype yourself up to go there. And it's like, I'm super excited for that person that's getting married or whatever the event is. But you do know that, I'm walking in single, which I'm totally fine. I'm content where I'm at. But then you walk in and the first question is, well, what about you? Or you're next? Or why not you yet? And you're just like, I just built myself up to walk in here so proud of who I am and where I'm at. And then it's just like a little bit of a sucker punch to be like, well, I'm not where you want me to be, apparently. And then you have to go and explain it all when it's not really their place to know it either. So,
and I feel like it can put a damper on holiday gatherings because
for sure.
You get that question all the way throughout the whole process of a holiday gathering. When you get the invite, there's that +1 usually of, are you bringing your boyfriend or are you bringing a spouse or someone special? And it's like, nope, just me. I'm single. we'll be fine. And then you get there and everybody there is like, oh, where's your friend? Where's your special someone? It's like, nope, just me. Yeah. I'm here. This is fine. And you want to enjoy the holiday gathering, but at the same time, it seems to put that damper on. And something that I've been challenging myself to navigate through and try to learn is, how do I continue a conversation with somebody when they ask me that? Because I found a lot of the times somebody asks me, oh, do you have a boyfriend? Or when are you getting married? Or are you dating? Or have you tried this online app? It seems to be a conversation killer, because they ask that and my answer isn't what is expected or what they're hoping for, because I'm single. I'm very happy in the season of life that I'm in. Sure, I'm open to getting married and meeting someone special and walking that path, but that's not the path God has me on right now. Right now, I'm single and enjoying and living life. So how do I take that response, because that's a true, genuine, honest response, and propel it into a conversation starter instead of a conversation killer? Because I feel like a lot of the times it's more of a conversation killer. Have you guys had that experience?
For sure. And when you sent the questions ahead of time, I was trying to think of what my responses in the past have been. And I feel like for most of my life, I've been a deflector, right? An answer with comedy, because, it lightens the mood. For a while, my answer was, well, Prince William is taken, insert whatever actor. Now he's been married quite some time. So, insert whatever famous person, and that's just kind of a way to deflect. But I do think that following up and trying to kind of come prepared with a response. And I was recently watching a reel with a relationship expert, and it was on the topic of, instead of asking someone, what do you do? Right. And I feel like you could fill it in. But like, what are you working on right now that's really exciting to you? Or what is something you're looking forward to? Or, something that would then throw the question back to them, and not in a deflating way, but being prepared for what to say in response to that. And I do admit, too, there's been times when my response has been really snarky, and doing it not in a snarky way, but in a, just throw something and then asking a follow-up question so that it doesn't immediately awkward crickets silence of that response.
Yeah, I've had to challenge myself too, because sometimes when that question comes up, I automatically think that was like purposeful, like they knew that I was single and they were just trying to point it out, where like that's not their heart behind it. I've had to check myself, because if I come in defensive and frustrated already into the conversation, what good is that going to do to carry on a future conversation? So it's just like knowing that, yes, it might not be the best question for them to lead off with, but understand that they're just trying to be curious and try to start a conversation. So instead of me getting all defensive, it's like, oh, well, no, not yet, but I've been really excited about this new project that I've been working on, or I've been starting this new hobby. What have you been doing? And just like kind of changing the path, but like in a kind way where like it does allow them to answer and continue the conversation, rather than you just being super mad at them because how dare they bring up that question when they were just trying to start something and start a conversation with you.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important part, that we have a couple new teachers on my floor at school, and just it's a natural curiosity thing, right? And so one of them, I was just chatting generally, and so she's like, so are you married? Do you have children? And I'm like, no, I'm like a super cool aunt and a dog mom, that is my roles right now. It doesn't mean that they might not change in the future, but I do think it's a cultural, just a question that you ask someone. And I do think there's a little bit of a shift away from that, as we're kind of starting to, more and more people are delaying marriage, or maybe even not getting married until, later in life. So I think there is a little bit of a shift away from that, but it just is such a cultural question that, that's one of the first questions. What do you do? Are you married? Like, there's a checklist of these questions. So yeah, the reminder that it's not malicious necessarily from the people that are asking. It's just curiosity and just being able to answer with grace of no, I'm not. Thanks for reminding me, as opposed to no, like I'm investing in my nieces and nephews and, I have a dog who's really important to me, that kind of thing. So
I think I've had to learn too is like my family and I are very close and I'm so grateful for that. So they know that like marriage is a desire and a family is a desire. So when they're asking, they know it's because it's something that I would want in my future. So it is a kind question to ask because if I was excited about a project at work or something, they would of course want an update on that. So knowing that that is where their heart is coming from helps me to just kind of like diffuse myself because like I said, if I come in angry, it's like, what good is this going to do? But like settling myself and being like, they ask because they care about me and just kind of being like, well, not yet, but I'm excited about this. It's just a great way to like kind of change it, but make it still approachable for future conversation too, because I think shutting them down completely from ever asking is not necessarily the solution either, because like then one day when God does provide for me to go down that path, it's kind of like awkward almost to be like, well, I, haven't let you ask for 14 years, but now you're allowed to ask. Like, I don't know, like that seems like, yeah. So I don't know, like I feel like that way keeps the door open for the future, but without like making it a big prevalent thing right now too.
I really like the point that you brought up, Becca, about checking your heart before you go in and being, and Lisa, you were talking about being prepared ahead of time because I've had, and I'm sure other people have too, the experience of there's that certain person or two that they are asking and they won't accept an answer besides, yes, I have a boyfriend, or yes, I'm going on a date soon, or yes, I'm getting married. And you just know that it's going to be the difficult conversation of the night or of the party because that's just where they're at. And it seems like no matter how hard you've tried, like just to explain, thank you so much for caring and thank you so much for wanting that good thing for me. But that's not where it is right now. And so for me, I find I have to prepare myself. Okay, because I know that there might be one or two of those conversations that then tends to rub off into all the other conversations. It's like, oh, wait, I just had that conversation with that one person who doesn't want to accept the fact that I'm single and happy. But that's not on me. And my reaction to it has to be genuine. It has to be for me and not carry over into my next conversation of the next person that I'm face to face with of being like, oh, well, you're getting snarky attitude me because the person who just asked me that question really just put a bee in my bonnet. And now I'm just going to be this way for the rest of the party. And it's such a killjoy, but it's also like, oh, wait, I just ruined my entire time here because I let it bother me instead of being prepared ahead of time and having some answers prepared ahead of time or some good follow-up questions of like, no, I don't have a boyfriend, but this is something really exciting I'm doing, or this is something new that's happened in my life, or it's the same old, but it's so great right now because of that.
And I think we don't you have the choice to let it bother you or to not let it bother you. Like you cannot control if your family's going to ask the question because honestly, if you don't think they're going to, that's just kind of naive of you because they're probably going to. So like go in prepared, but like don't let it ruin your night. You can only choose like how you react to the situation. And if you choose to react poorly, then yeah, your night is going to be ruined. But if you act like happy and up in good spirit about everything, like then you can move on to the next conversation and still enjoy it. Like you can choose to still enjoy the night. Don't let it like damper everything because that's your choice.
Yeah. And I think that especially with those people that are persistent, remember that the questions they're asking you is more a reflection of them than of you, right? That need to know your personal business, that's more them than you. And just being able to, like you said, just shake it off and move on with the night. And it was interesting when I was thinking about this because I'm like, when was the last time somebody even asked me? I'm in a different demographic than you ladies. And I just turned 48 and my family no longer asks me the question. And part of me is like, why don't they ask me the question? Have they given up hope? I don't know. But I like with my immediate family, we're so close, like that they know. And it's just an interesting shift. I just realized in thinking through this podcast, like, I don't get asked that question anymore by people like an extended family, So I do think there comes a time when it's not really a question that gets asked anymore. So that's interesting. Anyway.
That is interesting. I'm like, I wonder what that magical age is, or
right. I don't know.
magical set of circumstances. And because it's not that they don't care, but that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what it says about me or the people around, but I do think that I feel like I'm, I reflect well generally that I am not living in a season of desperation to be dating someone, and I love my life, and yes, that's a desire of my heart, but God's purpose right now is for my season of singleness. So maybe that's part of it, or maybe just they're sick of asking and like, no, I'm not dating anyone. So
that is interesting because like just being like younger, it's a very prevalent question, even just like starting new jobs, even it just kind of comes in of just like, so are you seeing somebody? Like, we just need to know. I'm like,
I totally asked you that your first day. I was like, you need to come on this podcast if you're single.
Which is great. But it's just like, it's like, we need to know. It's a very big deal. And it's like, I understand where you're coming from. And I like, yes, I would love to share, but it's also like, there is nobody, so thank you. And so, but like then you get to like family stuff, and it's like still very prevalent. Like I graduated from Cedarville University, so it's a Christian school. It's like if you walk out of there single, like what's wrong with you? So like that was really hard, that like couple of like years after graduating from there with like family holidays, because it's like, oh, well, your sister met somebody at Cedarville. Why didn't you? Again, I couldn't tell you. Like, I don't know. Or like, then my brother is there now. So it's just like, they're like, oh, I'm sure he's going to meet somebody. And I'm like, yep, he'll probably get married before me. Like, I don't, like, kind of to your point earlier of like, I'll kind of just throw in a little like joke and be like, yeah, you're right. Like, I don't know. He'll probably be married before me. But it's just like, I think you're right. The demographic, it's like, what is that cutoff? I don't know. But like being younger, just navigating through that is just a little interesting.
One thing that I recently watched a reel, and it really struck me and convicted me. And it was talking about the story of Abraham in Genesis and how God had made him this amazing promise. He was older, he was married, didn't have any children, which was a big deal culturally at that time. And he was 75 years old, and God promised him that he would have children and grandchildren, and that would be as numerous as the stars in the sky. And he's like, but God, like, wait a second, I'm old, my wife is old. But God promised, and God didn't fulfill that promise for 25 years. And so in the meantime, Abraham got anxious about the promise, and he went ahead with his own way of fulfilling the promise, which resulted in Ishmael when God was promising him an Isaac. And this reel said, I want to be patient and wait for the Isaac God has promised me, and not push ahead and be impatient and settle for the Ishmael that he didn't promise me. And I'm not saying that God promised that I would get married someday, but I do think that's an important reminder of not to push ahead. There's a lot of things we can do, and I'm not saying things that we can do to be in a relationship are wrong, but I think it really depends on the quality of the relationship that we want. And one of the responses that I feel like, were I to be asked this question now, are you seeing somebody? Why aren't you seeing somebody? Why aren't you married? Is I'm trusting God's timing. And I do think that could shut it down pretty quickly, unless you had a follow-up. Like, is there something you're trusting God for right now? Like, if you were in a Christian setting, that would be, I feel like, an appropriate thing. But I think that reminder of that we want what's God's best for us. Mm-hmm. And if we don't have that right now, it means that it's not God's time for us to have his best. And I think that might be an important answer to throw out there to get people thinking about, hey, this that's a very valid reason not to be dating somebody at this time. So I was really challenged by that reminder about trusting God for the Isaac and not being impatient and settling for Ishmael.
I think that's also really cool when you are in the family setting or even friend groups of people who might not know Jesus. And it's a really cool like segue that like would lead to a gospel conversation that might not have happened. So like maybe these questions of getting asked, are you single, are the blessing in the conversation starter that we need to engage in that conversation with family when we normally might not. So maybe instead of seeing it as such a bad, horrible, don't ask me that question, we can be like, wait, let me use this as an opportunity to say the name of Jesus in front of people who might not know the name and glorify him rather than such a bad connotation to it.
Definitely. That's a great perspective.
I love, Lisa, that you brought up of not settling for the Ishmael and waiting for the Isaac, because it's bringing to memory for me. Last night I had Bible study and we were talking about God and his wisdom and how his wisdom is so much greater than ours. And the 3 examples that were used to show that were Abraham, Jacob, and Joseph, and how they went through some very difficult, long seasons of life, either like Abraham waiting on God's promise, and Joseph had the dream and was waiting on the fulfillment of that, and things were just super unfair and stuff like that. And how it was showcasing how in God's wisdom, he allowed them to walk through those difficult things for lengthy periods of time to help refine them and prepare them for when they actually received the promise. And a marriage isn't promised in scripture. It's not promised that I'll ever meet somebody and get married. But what I do know is that God promises never to leave or forsake me and to continue working on me, and calls me to witness to others, like you said, Becca. And what a great opportunity to have that response of, well, I'm waiting on God's timing and for God's person for me, but then also using it as a chance to witness and to evangelize. And I just love both of those thoughts and opportunities on it. It's like, oh, I can turn this seemingly hard, difficult thing into something that's God-honoring and glorifying, but also into something that's just fun and enjoyable and sparks conversation.
And a great reminder, not only to the people that we are responding to, but to ourselves. Mm-hmm. Because I think often I have to remind myself, that I'm trusting God's timing.
Yeah. Yeah. And just saying it over and over again just re-solidifies it. Thanks for listening to episode 16 of Every Single Journey. If you liked what you've heard, click the subscribe button to be notified when future episodes are available. You can also share this podcast on your social media pages so others can be encouraged too. If you're looking for more faith-based content like this, be sure to check out Family Life's other original podcasts, including If That Makes Sense, 10 Minutes With, You Can't Say That on Christian Radio, Therese Talk, The Parable Podcast. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Your financial gifts make podcasts like this possible as we seek to share the hope we have in Jesus. You can find out more on our website at familylife.org.